This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Strozinski, and on today's show, this megastar in AEW may be leaving the company very, very soon. We got the lowdown on that, as well as what is going on with this WWE superstar and his schedule. Is he now a part-timer? We're going to discuss all of that later on in the podcast in the news and notes. Of course, we're going to take a look at what happened this week in the world of wrestling. We've got WWE, we've got AEW. Maybe Doc does a little Impact review. We'll see. Of course, we've got to review what took place with Backlash, and doing it with me, as always, he's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
I'm looking forward to this week's broadcast. Guys, gotta tell you, I'm trying. I have a contact now that is more reliable for AEW. And I tried this week because on Saturday and Sunday, Adam Cole is in town for Motor City Comic Con. And I'm like, oh, let me get out there and see if Adam Cole will come on this very podcast. And I got to this next step, guys. I got the guy to say, okay, I'll look into it. And then we proceeded to get ghosted. Hey, I'm interested in Adam Cole.
That happened with QT Marshall as well. I tried for, I think, 2.5 months trying to get QT Marshall on, and I'll let you know, and never let us know, so.
Exactly, and so that always stinks because, guys, that's all we ask. Podcasters are easy. We just ask for a yes or a no. And it's like we've gotten into a phase in life where if someone has to deliver bad news, then they just ignore you. Just stop wasting my time and say, I'm sorry, Adam is busy. He cannot accommodate your request. Try again later. That's all we need. Instead, you make me check my email 40 times because I'm checking to see if that's something that can happen. So, but we're trying to keep it moving. Adam Cole, second official diss on the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. But that's not going to bring down the shine. It was a great week of wrestling, highlighted by a pay-per-view and Monday Night Raw, Dynamite, and the beginning of the Owen Hart Classic in a tournament that features some really, really good wrestlers. So I'm okay with it. A little disappointed, but hey, we'll keep trucking.
Look, so this is kind of where I want to go. Kicking the week off, we'll say with Backlash, I thought we got a pretty solid week of wrestling. Now, I think some shows were much better than others. Backlash was a show where going into it, I didn't care about this card. And there were parts in this show that I absolutely did not care about. But I think with Backlash, there was some news that kind of came out. I think there were things that we could kind of grab onto and really sink our teeth into that unfolded from Backlash. And I do think a lot of the wrestling matches that we got on Backlash, I think for them being the second time around, because look, you had Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins going another time around. You had almost Bobby Lashley going another time around. You had Ronda and Charlotte with their second fight. Madcap and Corbin, that feud continues. And then we get the main event, which was the Bloodline versus Drew McIntyre and RK Bro, which I thought was highly entertaining. But I kind of want let's just kind of get into the results here, and let's kind of talk about some of these matches, because looking back on Backlash, as I was watching it, I wasn't very impressed. Going back and rewatching it, I was like, it wasn't that bad. There was a lot of good that I think you could take out of it. Now, to kick the show off, we got Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. That's going to be a fantastic match. I thought this match was better than their match at WrestleMania, and I thought it was really, really good. I thought that we've seen what ends up happening on Monday Night Raw, and we're going to talk about that, but I thought this was a perfect way to cement and finalize this feud and move on from this feud. I thought it was a great match. What did you think of Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins?
Or so you thought the feud should end.
So you thought.
That's what I was thinking is the way in which it should, but it didn't. And we talk about Raw, we'll go more into it. But yeah, it was a great way to kick off the match. I liked it. It was great, and really, in the end, when you look at it, I know some people might have had an issue with kind of Cody Rhodes using the tights, but it was in response to Seth using the tights. But, hey, by any means necessary, and that's what Cody's establishing, the right guy won. I'm just not so sure that it should continue. I'm not seeing the value in that.
So let me ask this, because you brought up him using the tights, and I think that's key, because good guys don't do those things. Faces don't do those things. Do you think with Cody Rhodes, we're going to get this bit of a gray character, or we're going to get this guy who is so motivated to win this championship? Because you got to remember the story they're telling. The story they're telling is that Cody Rhodes is working to win the title that his father had won but never received because of crazy rules and stipulations in WWE. Is it by any means necessary Cody Rhodes is going to win this title and do whatever he has to do to get to this point, or is he going to be a little bit more of a gray character?
No, I just think that, I know when you say gray, I just think he's going to be a fan favorite just because of the fact that he started off as a fan favorite. Okay. People are going to cheer him. That is currently the plan, is that he's going to be a top face, and that's the manner in which look, you've got to remember, faces can act in a way where they try things and do things. It's not, and that's really the crux of the argument, is should baby faces do heel type things? Because that can muddy the waters and start potentially the turn of some fans going, hey, what is he doing? Is he a bad guy? And I know a lot of people like to be black and white and say faces act like this and heels act like this. But bottom line, I think that moving forward, the best and the reaction will be very popular and favorable for Cody Rhodes. He'll be a face.
All right, I like it. We'll see what happens. I don't mind the by any means necessary Cody Rhodes. I think that could be an interesting character to kind of watch develop and grow. But we'll see what they end up doing. Again, we'll get more into this Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes feud when we touch on Raw here momentarily. Now, almost beats Bobby Lashley. I thought this was a better match than what we got at WrestleMania. I think the big match of the night, or one of the big matches of the night, was Edge and AJ Styles. And I thought this was a fantastic match. I thought this was a really, really good match. Edge ends up pinning AJ Styles, but much like we predicted when we were going through our predictions last week, he gets a little bit of help. And this time it comes in a hooded figure, and it is unveiled that Rhea Ripley is that hooded figure. I want to know what your thoughts were about how they did this, how Rhea was basically introduced to I guess the world as siding with Edge in Judgment Day. What did you think about how she ends up helping Edge out, and then she stands in the ring and she pulls her hood back and she's basically all smiles? What did you think about this?
Well, obviously I'm pissed off because it should have been a DQ. It should have resulted in how it should have went. What was the purpose of having AJ Styles get pinned? Obviously the bigger picture is the fact that the Judgment Day is growing, that they're going to add members and have people join that are obviously in this cult-like situation. Fine. But I think you did more of a disservice by having AJ Styles lose than you did, and what did you gain by Edge winning? The whole purpose was not about the match. Obviously, when you have, I know the value of the win by Edge pinning AJ Styles says, okay, we got over, and that can cement it. But bottom line, you still have a character in AJ Styles that now has lost his feud. You could have extended it by just simply having Rhea Ripley come in and kick his ass, and then AJ Styles gets the win. And then if you want the end result further cemented, like a double whammy and a further situation, then you have the next member join and cost AJ Styles the match. I just felt like you nipped it in the bud too fast, and obviously it cost me in the results there, but I just felt like pinning AJ Styles really didn't do much because of the fact that it's a feud that can continue. It will continue, but, you know, I'm thinking now maybe even more that the next member is going to be someone close to AJ Styles, because it looks like a perfect fit, a perfect foursome
I see where you're going.
Yeah, so you could have the ultimate betrayal. But it sucks because it's at the expense of AJ Styles. But yeah, you're right. It was a great wrestling match. Rhea's a perfect fit. I mean, it's perfect. Everybody kind of knew it. It was out there. I was just hoping that it would result in a disqualification, because AJ Styles is valuable. And I think that he deserves a little bit of that Cody Rhodes push where he doesn't lose, only have, you know, wonky finishes and things like that for a time being, because he's over. Yeah. But in the world of wrestling, the heel beats the face in a situation when the heel's getting over, and that's the way it goes.
So kind of along the same line of what you're thinking, I think what would have been interesting with the way you kind of spun this story was AJ gets the win, and it forces Edge to be a little bit more crazy, a little bit more on edge, if you will, a little bit more do anything at any cost to get the win because he doesn't feel like he should have lost. And then you could have Rhea Ripley come in and, like you said, kick AJ Styles' ass before, they all get pulled apart and the match finally ends. The way I think I would have did it, because I want Edge to feel like he is bigger. Like, you remember when Edge was in the Brood, you remember when Gangrel would come out, and we look back and Gangrel, I don't think Gangrel was ever a great wrestler. I think Gangrel had a really cool, interesting character, and you always felt like he was bigger than what he probably was. And he was paired with two Hall of Famers in Edge and Christian, who were just breaking into the business, and he really helped push them along. I think with Edge, you want to make him feel almost like he is omnipresent, like he is the being in WWE. And the way you probably could have did that, and this is just kind of spitballing here, the way you could have did that is, again, you have Damian Priest who's barred from ringside, but that doesn't mean that you can't have the lights kind of flicker and go dim, and next thing you know, you've got the whole ring surrounded by hooded characters. And you could have the same thing happen where the hooded character pulls AJ Styles off of the turnbuckle so Edge can get the win. But what happens is the hooded character just falls back into line, and you have to tune in on Monday now to see who the hooded character is. And it would have created, 12, 14, 15 hours of debate. Like, who is the hooded character? Is it actually Rhea? Is it somebody else? And I think it would have been a little bit more interesting, Then you could have had the lights flicker and then all of them disappear. And I think it would just be a little bit more creative. I think it would make Edge feel almost larger than life, almost like he's in God mode, to steal a line from Roman Reigns. I think it'd been a little bit more interesting storytelling. Instead, she just kind of pulls it off and she's just all smiles. I don't know why she's smiling. Like, you're supposed to be in this cult, and I don't know anybody who necessarily smiles in cults, but neither here nor there. In the end, Edge gets the win. We move on with what we're doing. And like you said, it sets up for possibly Finn Balor turning on AJ Styles. Could be really interesting. We'll see what happens. Now, Ronda Rousey and Charlotte have an I Quit match. I'll be honest with you, I was bored by most of this match. Now, saying that this match was much better than what we got on WrestleMania. That being said, I thought what we got on WrestleMania was a hot pile of garbage. I was kind of annoyed with Charlotte constantly telling the ref and the microphone picking up her, asking if Ronda quits. That got annoying to me. I thought it was weird when Charlotte ends up taking kendo sticks and Ronda just takes them and then grabs them and pulls them away. She got hit and she wasn't even fazed by it. That was weird to me. In the end, they end up breaking Charlotte's arm per se. It's all storyline. Charlotte is going to end up taking some time off so she can go get married to Andrade. That's the whole purpose of that. But I think the big thing coming out of this is Ronda the way she enters the match, and then Ronda the way she leaves the match. Ronda entering the match looks like a cardboard box. Ronda leaving the match, all of a sudden she has a smile on her face. She's excited. She's now the champion. She seems much warmer with the fans. She comes out on Monday and she cuts a pretty decent promo. We're going to talk about what happened on Monday Night Raw when we get there. I think the big story coming out of this was Charlotte did all of the build and carried this entire thing. It was almost exhausting watching Charlotte work to try to make this look good. Ronda almost looked like she couldn't be bothered. Now, champion, to me, it just seems like a completely different person. What do you make of that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I got to be honest, full disclosure. At this point in the match, I fell asleep. That was when I had to tap out.
About this match. It was not, yeah. I didn't think
and the funny part was I woke up, when you fall asleep and then you wake up and you're like, oh, okay, you start to come to. I come to right as Roman Reigns is spearing whoever he pinned. I think it was
Matt Riddle.
Matt Riddle. Yep. I wake up and then the match is over. So I'm like, oh, okay. And you're like, wait a minute, did I miss anything? I'm like, oh my God, really? They did go with this short card. Yeah, look. Ronda Rousey is basically going to be happy when she's a champ, pissed when she's not. okay, I was glad that feud ended. It was a nothing burger for me. It wasn't even enough for me to fight to stay up. Yeah. I was out, and I'm glad this feud, it'll be revisited again at a bigger time, but it's time to move forward. Let's just see what happens with it. I'm not of that opinion where, Ronda has to be this pissed off person when she's chasing, and then completely different and more energetic when she has it. It's just not the way I would have did it.
I think she needs to, I don't think she needs to necessarily be on Smackdown every single night. I think what they need to do with her is get her into NXT, get her working with some of the younger talent, just to help refine some of those skills. Because there are some things that she does pretty well, and there are other things that she's just absolutely an abomination with. And it makes it really hard to believe what the hell is actually going on with her as the champion. Madcap Moss gets the win over Corbin. Again, kind of a nothing burger. Now, I think the match of the night was the main event. The Bloodline gets the win over Drew McIntyre and RK Bro. Like you mentioned it. Roman Reigns ends up hitting a spear from out of nowhere on Matt Riddle. This was such a good match. So after the Ronda Rousey-Charlotte match, I was kind of annoyed with this entire card. I was like, all right, I'm getting ready for bed. I'll be honest, I was brushing my teeth during the Madcap Moss match. I end up getting into bed, and I have to stay up to watch the end of this card because I thought this was such a fantastic match. There was so much good psychology. There was so much good action in the ring. And for it to end the way it ends, where you've got Matt Riddle going up to the top rope, ends up hitting, I think it was an RK Bro from the top rope, and Roman Reigns, you like, if you're not paying attention, you miss him tag on the foot of one of the Uso brothers to then slip in and hit a spear on Matt Riddle. It was crazy. He hit a big spear. It was awesome. I thought the way this match finished was absolutely fantastic. What did you think of the main event? I know you caught basically the very end of it. I'm assuming you went back and you rewatched it because it was great. Yeah,
it was good. It was good wrestling, good storytelling. It made you forget that it should have been really the RKO against the Usos. So I was happy with it, and really the Bloodline handles their business, and that's what they do. So exactly. The pay-per-view, the best way to put it is, and I had mentioned it to another wrestling podcaster when they said it, it didn't do much in regards to interest, but it was cool to see good quality wrestling. And then of course the idiots are like, well, what are you going to say when it's called WrestleMania Backlash? Well, that's the whole point of the message, is that I don't want WrestleMania Backlash just to be a big rehash and continuation of everything that kind of culminates in WrestleMania. So in essence, that's my critique. But bottom line, it was a good show. If you watch it, you'll be entertained and you'll have a good time. So it'll be a good time and a good situation moving forward as we evolve moving forward. So that's what my hope is. Pay-per-view was a B+ in my mind. And obviously, you have to give you credit, give you your flowers, kicking my ass in the challenge. 6.5 to 1.5 as you won, just based on the fact that the Judgment Day had to get the win. They had to go over. They couldn't do it the right way in terms of storytelling. They had to do it in a manner in which Edge has to get, king of the castle, wearing the throne. Fine, no problem. You get the point, because we were pretty much in lockstep except for the defining match, which was Edge defeating AJ Styles. So kudos to you, kicking ass, but it's time to turn the corner now in the second half of the year. But the good thing is that, our predictions are really spot on. It's just coming down to the one or two storylines, and I'm losing because I'm going with my heart. But otherwise, we'd just be even. So losing in a way, that way is fine when we have just one difference. So I'll take it and accept it. It makes it fun to watch the pay-per-views.
All right, well, let's jump into Raw, because we do get a continuation of some of these stories that took place on Sunday. First off, though, I do want to know what you thought about Alexa Bliss's return.
It was good to see. She looked a little different, but I don't know.
It felt like a wet fart to me.
Yeah, it could have been better. That's the best way to put it. Exactly. I absolutely agree.
She ends up beating up Sonya Deville for 2 minutes. She's still doing this, Lily gimmick. I'm so frustrated by Alexa Bliss because she is so incredibly talented. I feel like she is one of those pillars in the women's division that needs to be highlighted more. I don't feel like they do a really good job of highlighting some of the talent that they have in the women's division. And she is a star. Like, fans love her. She's got a great look, and you can do so much with her. And this is what they're doing with her. And for real, they left her on the shelf forever and a day. So I'm happy that they finally brought her back. But man, it felt like somebody just like tried to pass gas and a little bit more came out. It was a little bit unfortunate. We talked a little bit about Seth and Cody when we did the Backlash review. Now, I thought we were moving on. I thought we were done. I guess we should have knew better because there was a promo in the back where Cody was like, hey, in my book, we're done. We're moving on. I'm on to the next chapter. And that probably should have been the tip of the cap that this is not done. What do you think and what do you make about Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes continuing to feud, and the way Seth Rollins just annihilated Cody Rhodes and just screamed at him like a crazy man, stating, "You will never take anything else from me again"? What did you make of all of that?
I like it because Seth obviously is not one to mess with, but I want the feud to be done, so I'm conflicted. That was a pretty sweet curb stomp on the table. So I thought that was cool because it produced a cool GIF that we can relay in Detroit sports. So it was cool, but I'm torn and conflicted because I just feel like Cody Rhodes needs to start moving on to other stuff. I was kind of hoping that they would let him win the U.S. title. I thought that was great because then the curb stop can happen and say, fine, you got a title now, I'll take that from you. So, obviously, it was cool seeing Theory and Cody Rhodes, but everybody kind of had a vision that it was going to end wonky because Theory is just the guy that's over. But Seth cost Cody Rhodes a title opportunity, so he will now have more anger towards him in another match. Fine. This kind of maybe is Cody's influence from AEW saying, hey, let's build out this long story. 2 months is it, man. 60 days of a feud, WrestleMania Backlash. What are you going to do now? Hell in a Cell?
It's weird because with AEW, we will be on the hook for 2 years. Like, you go back and you look at the Hangman Page storyline, right? That was a 2-year build. That was like from day one when Hangman challenged Chris Jericho for the title and lost. And then he gets paired with Kenny Omega. And then you have the Kenny Omega saga built inside of the Hangman saga, which was absolutely great. And then you have it all culminate when Hangman wins. In AEW, we will watch a build for feuds and we will watch a build for storylines for years. In WWE, and I think it's just the way WWE has programmed us. Look, you have one pay-per-view, you have 2 pay-per-views, you don't get past 3 pay-per-views. If we're going past 3 pay-per-views, we are going way too long. And really and truly, I kind of felt like this was done. I felt like it was time to move on from this storyline. So I'm right there with you. I'm in lockstep. But I find it weird the way, depending on which glasses we have on, you know what I'm saying? How we can view the different creative abilities of each program, right? Of how AEW does stuff and how WWE does stuff. Because I think you're right. I think this should have been done. I mean, I think it'll be good stuff. And I think it does have a lot to do with Cody's influence on, like, let's build it out. But I think as WWE fans, we're ready to turn the page. Yeah. You know?
Yep, exactly. And, I mean, Seth's going to take a 3-month. I mean, how does that affect Seth? I think it's just best for both to get Seth back on track to winning. But we'll see how it plays out.
Was there anything else that really stuck out to you from Monday Night Raw? Was there anything that you really liked? Or was it just kind of, because to me, Raw was, there were a couple of high spots, but to me, kind of Raw was just kind of ho-hum. It was what it was. And I really thought Smackdown was a much better show than what we got on Monday Night Raw. So before we jump into Smackdown, I just wanted to touch base with you, see if there was anything special that you liked about Raw that maybe we missed.
No, I think it was a good show. Yeah, a show you probably need to DVR, B-. But I just think that now on the path to the next pay-per-view, it will be time to evolve some new feuds and really elevate the mid-card situation and really elevate the likes of The Miz and see what Austin Theory is about. But really, bottom line, everybody wants to know what is going on with the Judgment Day and how they're going to handle things. I thought the promo from the Judgment Day was pretty sweet on Raw. I thought that it might have been a little bit long, but I thought the promo was pretty good.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens with Judgment Day and how basically everybody slots into their role. it'll be interesting to see how Rhea Ripley can grow in this new role. I think sometimes she gets a little starstruck that she's in the same ring with Edge, So it'll be interesting to see if she can really help elevate herself. So it'll be fun to watch her growth and her maturity. Now, like I said, I thought SmackDown was a much better show from start to finish than Monday Night Raw was. What did you think of RK Bro bookending SmackDown? I thought it was really fun the way they came out and Sami Zayn interrupts. They end up renaming Sami Zayn Rusty. I thought it was funny when Matt Riddle was like, I'm going to call you Rusty because your hair's the color of rust. I thought that was so funny. Like RK Bro was absolutely fantastic. And then you have Matt Riddle basically headbutting, kicking, just laying the wood to Roman Reigns at the very, very end. To me, I was like, whoa. Like,
it was good. Now,
doors are blown off, and that's how you fade to black. That is the way you close a freaking show.
Yes. It highlighted everything because, obviously when you look at it, after the pay-per-view, Roman Reigns went on social media and he was working out and he threw a backhanded diss at Matt Riddle. He said basically, there's a lot of superstars and things, well, everybody but Matt Riddle and things like that. So that was a payback for the backhanded open diss that he had online, and it was great. It paid it forward, and now we get a chance to see the match that we want to see. SmackDown's great. I think that, really, the best thing is Sasha Banks and the tag situation and seeing her do her thing, and it's one of those things for the opportunity that you say, wow, greatness. And obviously the line of the week, I think that's maybe will tip my hand to the show of the week. When Randy Orton goes, John Cena's 50 times the superstar you'll ever be. I thought that was just the proper diss to bring Roman Reigns down a notch, and the only person that could deliver it where it's believable is Randy Orton. So that was sweet. That's what capped it off.
I will say this much. Watching Randy Orton these last couple months with Matt Riddle has been such a pleasure. It's been such a joy. There is so much pride he takes in Randy Orton. You can just see it in his face. Or in Matt Riddle, I'm sorry. There's so much pride in Randy Orton's face that you can just see it when Matt Riddle does something, when Matt Riddle gets a win, when Matt Riddle executes a move, and it is so much fun to see this version of Randy Orton. I absolutely love it. I find them to be they are appointment viewing. Whenever they are on the television, I stop everything I'm doing to watch them, and that is how you know you have your audience. They are absolutely fantastic. Something else I thought that was really, really good. Okay, we talk about the inability of WWE to build stars, and I thought this was going to end so poorly because Raquel Rodriguez gets called up to the main roster, hasn't really done a whole lot. She's been in some backstage segments. It's been a little awkward, been a little bit weird. She was fantastic in NXT when she was Raquel Gonzalez. She gets called up. Ronda Rousey's in the ring, and again, we get this new version of Ronda Rousey, this one who's actually engaged in doing what she gets paid to do, which is fantastic. And she lays down an open challenge for the SmackDown Championship, and Raquel Rodriguez takes that challenge. This match was probably 15 minutes. Raquel Rodriguez controlled probably 12 minutes of it. This is how you build a star. Raquel Rodriguez threw Ronda Rousey around, and Ronda Rousey sold for Raquel Rodriguez. This was absolutely fantastic. Rousey ends up winning, but Raquel Rodriguez gets the shine, gets the rub, and this is how you help build a star. This is how you know WWE is invested in Raquel Rodriguez. When she goes out there and she goes toe-to-toe with the prize star child in Ronda Rousey and just goes back and forth, and there were times where it was almost believable she was going to get the win over Ronda Rousey. And that is how you know you're doing a great job as Ronda Rousey selling for a talent who just came up. I thought this was absolutely fantastic. I loved this because we bag and we crush WWE all the time for the way they do things. Last week, we sat there and we crushed them for what they did to Aaliyah with Charlotte Flair. This week, it's the complete opposite with Raquel Rodriguez. She looked absolutely fantastic in this match, and I thought Ronda Rousey looked like a mature, vested, interested, engaged champion, and I thought she did a fantastic job in this match. I applaud what took place between Ronda Rousey and Raquel Rodriguez this week on SmackDown. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it was good, a quality matchup, and you recognize that now Ronda Rousey can be free to showcase what she can do.
Yep. You want to give us a quick review of Impact?
Absolutely. On the path to Slammiversary. And basically, you had a gauntlet match to determine who's going to face Josh Alexander, who was victorious at the last pay-per-view. And it ends up being Eric Young. And it's going to be a great situation. Go back and watch it. It was a great gauntlet match. William Morrissey enters, and he comes in, and he handles business. And the biggest highlight for me from the pay-per-view, obviously, was the title win by Josh Alexander and new Impact Tag Team Champions. And the Briscoes obviously deserve opportunity for gold to wear Impact Gold. So it was pretty sweet to see how they can evolve and handle their business. And now I thought Honor No More going over against the Bullet Club at the pay-per-view set forth a lot of new things. This Impact was a good show. You kick it off with basically an Ultimate X qualifier, Kenny King taking on Chris Bay. And I thought it was very competitive. A distraction allowed King to score the victory with the Royal Flush, his finishing move. So, we got to kind of find time now to see how the people and the wrestlers coming over from Ring of Honor are going to be utilized. It kind of has started to kind of tilt a little bit, and you don't want to minimize the impact of those that are from Ring of Honor. So you got to see how this can play out and make sure there's a good balance between getting enough of those guys over and not make them feel like the actually fifth company out there. Gail Kim, the other big news story, came out and said that the Knockouts Championship will be up for grabs in the first ever Queen of the Mountain match. And yes, it's going to be something great to see.
That'll be fantastic.
At Slammiversary. So we'll see that. And then the one of my favorite moments outside of the ending there, the ending gauntlet, was Josh Alexander and Tomohiro Ishii taking on Jay White and El Phantasmo. And you look at it and you say, wow, what talent is going on here. You at first thought that Jay White and El Phantasmo would get over, but no, Ishii scored the big win, and it was pretty sweet, and it was a good match, probably the second best match of the night. It was cool. I just thought that Impact now in their manner in which they have a pay-per-view, pay it off, and move forward. That's kind of, I think, highlighted maybe my opinion on WWE, was because following, a pay-per-view, maybe WWE does a lot of recapping and a lot of treading lightly in regards to moving forward, whereas Impact moves forward and goes, this is what's next, and it's exciting. So Impact was an A- and was among the best shows of the week. But for me, the show of the week that, you know what? We'll save it because we do have to talk about AEW.
Let's talk about AEW, yep.
Yep, but I'll say this. It was not Impact. The show of the week was highlighted by a lot of things that went well that we previously talked about. But Impact was great. Go watch it, A- show, and then we get into AEW, which I thought was good. But unfortunately, here's the problem. Rampage, for me, my only complaint has been herky-jerky because of the television schedule. 5:30 doesn't work for most normal working people, so I haven't been watching Rampage too much. But Dynamite, hands down, bro, has been really amazing and highlighted probably, I would say, top 5. This week's Dynamite was really, really special with the Owen Hart having Dr. Martha Hart there, kind of reintroducing her love.
That was really cool.
It was special.
Really cool to see. I mean, and to think, right? Like, after everything that has happened to the Hart family, right? From Owen's death to kind of what took place with WWE, it feels like there are some bad feelings between Martha and Brett. Like, there's a strained relationship there. It doesn't seem like everything is as kosher as it probably should be. For her to go and watch a wrestling event says a ton. And for her to allow AEW to do what they're doing in the name of Owen is absolutely fantastic. So great point by you, honestly. I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it was great. Continue. It was great. It was great to see the continuation of MJF's feud. It was just really special. It was really cool all the way around.
What do you make of MJF basically getting the Bret Hart treatment in Long Island? I find it fascinating because if you remember, Bret Hart would be cheered all over Canada. He was vehemently booed in the United States. MJF in Long Island still plays a heel character, but he is so overwhelmingly embraced. It is absolutely fantastic, and it's amazing to watch. He will walk into any other city in the U.S., in Canada, in Mexico, doesn't matter where, and he will be booed vehemently out of the arena. Long Island, they love him, even when he is talking trash to them and calling them poor, but he still loves them. He is it's to me, this segment, the MJF Wardlow segment, was absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. MJF playing to the Long Island crowd was so freaking great. I know that Kenny in our group message usually doesn't like MJF and kind of bags on him a little bit. I find MJF to be absolutely fascinating and brilliant. I think what he does on the microphone is unreal. The fact that he was talking about his good close friend Cody Rhodes and then basically saying, oh, well, you probably don't want me to talk about, what was it, like 2014 or whatever, or 2020, whatever it was. He's like, yeah, the guy in the back doesn't want me to talk about that either. Like, just throwing shots at Tony Khan, and you'll want to stick around for more on this situation when we get to the news and notes, but just throwing shots at Tony Khan, unreal. Like, I thought this was just creative freedom at its absolute best. What did you think of this?
Yeah, it was. MJF says some funny stuff, huh? Because the best part, I think, of wrestling that people like is when the line is blurred between reality and what's actually going on in the company and storyline. So it's great to see. And I think moving forward, it's going to be interesting to see the next couple months how this plays out. But who needs to go over?
Oh, for sure, Wardlow.
Yeah.
Like Wardlow has to go over, right? I mean, I just feel like he has to. I think Wardlow is on the verge of being their first megastar that is a homegrown talent. I feel like he's got the look. He does a good job on the microphone. I think his in-ring work has taken massive steps forward. And I think this storyline with MJF, who has really done a lot of the heavy lifting as far as building this, right? Like, but it's not just, he's done the heavy lifting on the microphone of building this. Wardlow has done the actual physical building of this, being in the ring, selling the facial expressions, the body language. And remember, this is another long-term build that we're getting from AEW. This wasn't just put together and we've got it thrown together in a couple months. No, this goes back to when basically Wardlow came in as MJF's heater. He was his bodyguard. He was just a big dude who was just there to protect MJF. And it has evolved into this awesome story. And to me, it feels like Wardlow is on the verge of becoming the megastar that AEW has helped create. Because remember, all these other guys, like Heyman cut his teeth in ROH and cut his teeth in New Japan. Kenny Omega was a megastar in New Japan. The Young Bucks, same thing. ROH, New Japan, FTR, all over the world. You know, CM Punk became a superstar in WWE. So, like, you have all these guys, and they all have come here to kind of work. But I think Wardlow will be the first guy that AEW gets to tattoo on his ass, like property of AEW. I think it'll be fantastic if he goes over. What did you think of the CM Punk working as a heel in Long Island? I thought that was, he came out in a John Tavares jersey, who's no longer in.
Yeah. It's not new though because they've done it before, so it's just cool to see. I want to ask you this because I think it was the story that people maybe that don't understand wrestling kind of don't get, but it was a little bit more behind the scenes. When Nice defeated Danhausen, was that the best way to do it? Because you highlighted the fact that Nice didn't get an entrance, and people understand that Danhausen has this special, unique aura. But I think maybe they were playing too much to the marks, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. In that I don't think the casual fan would understand, why is this guy that they've been promoting get in the ring and then he gets squashed? You know what I mean? So set the table a little bit. And fill us in a little bit about Danhausen because I know you know a lot about him, but it's part of a bigger storyline, guys. Relax. Danhausen's not this, character that is to be ignored. When he gets into the ring and actually gets after it, look out. It's going to be special.
Yeah, his matches are Okay, so let's not talk about his matches. Let's talk about Danhausen, the character. Danhausen, the character, this is a guy who really got himself over. He basically was failing in the wrestling industry and couldn't figure out how to make his character connect with people. So ends up just going the complete opposite way, right? It was just like, screw it, I'm going to do what I want to do. And he creates this comedic character who is supposed to be like a dark wizard is best way I could put it, right? So he'll curse you. That's the whole thing where he points at you and he opens his eyes real big and he keeps pointing at you. That's him putting a curse on you. Now we all know that the curse isn't real, but in his mind, he's cursing you and this works. Now he was able to really get himself over by utilizing YouTube and doing different things online. When he actually wants to work, the dude can actually work. Like he can fly around. I thought this was a fantastic way to bring this Hookhausen thing together. And to be honest with you, I think this is what's interesting about AEW is Danhausen is a huge fan favorite. Hook is a huge fan favorite. And these guys almost butting heads, right, in this, whatever this build was. AEW realized there's something here, right? Everybody started calling it Hookhausen, and everybody wanted this. So Tony Khan and AEW are like, you guys want it? All right, cool, we'll give it to you. So now we're going to get a tag team with Hookhausen. And I think the whole thing with Tony Nese beating the crap out of Danhausen, I thought it was fantastic because now it loops in Hook, and now we get to go on our way with this Hookhausen storyline. And to me, it'll be really interesting to see where we go and what actually takes place with Danhausen, because I think we all understand what they're doing with Hook, and I think we all know that Hook can go. Hook can work, right? And they've done a really good job of basically feeding him guys to get him built up. Hook can move in the ring. It'll be interesting to see if Danhausen is the guy who is getting slaughtered early in a tag match and has to make that hot tag to have Hook come in and save him, or if it kind of flip-flops back and forth. Because I would really love to see Danhausen come in as a strong character, because what we got with Tony Nese just annihilating him, for those who aren't really familiar with who Danhausen is, you look at him as though he's a comedic, soft, weird character who can't really work in the ring. And I don't think that's the case. So I think this needs to be watched closely, and I think we have to kind of wait and see what they're going to do. But I think it's going to be interesting, and I'm all aboard for it because it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think that is what I think will be great. Is I think it'll be a lot of fun. This is something that, look, I thought the way Dynamite ended was fantastic. I thought it was really, really good. I think Darby Allin and Jeff Hardy put together a fantastic match. I think Darby Allin takes too many chances, and I think Darby Allin takes too many risks. If you look at the way Matt Hardy moves around in a ring, you look at the way Matt Hardy walks, it's because he damn near shattered his hip years ago. Darby Allin's career is going to be shortened by all of the crazy bumps he takes. And in a match, you only need one big bump. You only need one big one. You don't even need it in a match. You just need one bump that will get the crowd to pop at the right place at the right time. If you do a good enough job with the psychological part of wrestling and you tell a story. In this match between Jeff Hardy and Darby Allin, thought it was a good match, thought it was fun, thought it was entertaining. You want to see dudes flying off of shit and hitting stuff and bouncing off of things, you got it. If that's what you're into, you got it. This was like ECW light. You got it. It was here. You got to see Jeff Hardy basically do a swanton onto steel steps, pops back up. You got to see Darby Allin set a ladder up and jump off the very top of the ladder onto Jeff Hardy with 6 chairs beneath him and land on Hardy and the chairs, and I thought he might have died. Ends up popping back up, gets in the ring. That takes some of the believability away, because you and I both know if I was to climb up on a 12-foot ladder and jump off and hit you and hit 6 steel chairs, I'm not jumping back up. I can't
right?
jump back up. Like, there's no way. You're going to be in so much pain. You have to sell some of this stuff. There are spot fests and there are spot monkeys in the wrestling industry, and those are fine and they're good. But Darby Allin is on this program week in, week out. At some point, you got to start telling some psychological storylines to really get things over. And look, I appreciate the way he puts his body at risk, but man, if you could do that and get me invested and get me hooked in a storyline with you, you'd be so over. You'd be so over. He is over because of the spots. He has done nothing to tell a story since he's been in AEW, and that bothers me. Do you think guys like Darby Allin, other guys who like to perform all the big spots, do you think they need to focus more on the psychological part of wrestling more? Because in my estimation, they absolutely do, because I think Darby Allin has all the makings to be a megastar.
Yeah, but you want to see him around. You just hope that he doesn't end up hurting himself too dangerously. But young and dumb, and that's kind of how it is. But unfortunately, when you start doing stuff like that, you kind of got to go more and more to elevate yourself. So it was good in that, obviously, Jeff Hardy went over. It doesn't really hurt the Darby Allin character. But yeah, I absolutely agree with you. He's got to be more safe in the ring if he wants to be in there when he's in his 40s.
Yeah, you have to. I just think work the mental part of the game, and it'll help save your body. I know you kind of talked about Rampage a little bit. I just want to give you my 2 cents on Rampage. I'm so uninvested in Rampage. You're right. The time doesn't necessarily work. It was cool when it would come on after Smackdown because you're like, okay, we're going to do some good matches here. But I'll be honest with you. I watched it on DVR. I fast-forwarded through most of it. There's generally nothing on Rampage that really makes me say, oh, I got to watch this. And I don't know if it's just the booking, if it's the storylines we get. I don't know what the hell it is. I'm just not invested in Rampage. And I think that's where I'll kind of leave that because it'll bring us to our show of the week. And I think we might be in lockstep this week on the show of the week. What was your show of the week?
Smackdown. I thought it was great. It earns it, and it was quality all the way around. Get it? It was an A show. So make sure you check it out if you missed anything this week. Make sure you check back in with Smackdown. It was good. It was worth it.
Yeah, SmackDown does it for me as well. I thought the SmackDown show, like I said, so good from start to finish, being bookended by RK Bro. The stuff we got in the middle where they actually helped elevate a young wrestler, I thought was fantastic. You talked about Sasha Banks. She's absolutely great. I thought it was a really good show. It was a great 2 hours. I thought it was fantastic.
Yes, it sure was, and I think it's going to elevate further by, teaser, the unification match, which you're going to get very, very soon. And I can't wait to see it because I want to see how the storyline progresses. Do we get the culmination? Do we get a swerve? Do we get the end of RK Bro? Or do we get potentially what's needed, which is RK Bro going even higher and unifying the tag team championships? And I can't wait to see it. All right, cuz, hit me at this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
All right, so short list this week. Roman Reigns made some news this week with a promo he cut in Trenton, New Jersey. Many speculated that maybe he might be leaving WWE. However, it sounds like he'll be taking some time off and has already been removed from a few shows and 2 pay-per-views going forward. Now, it has come out Roman Reigns has signed a new contract where he has to work much fewer dates. So speculation is he could possibly be doing a movie. We'll have to watch this going forward and see kind of how this unfolds. Usually once the contract is signed, it's a week, maybe 2 weeks later, we get a little bit more as to what is actually taking place. But it sounds like Roman Reigns will be dialing back his time on WWE, which I find to be really interesting because he is your head champion, your main champion on both Raw and SmackDown. So him taking time away, very, very interesting. Now, earlier we discussed a AEW star possibly leaving the company to possibly go and play with the competition. Well, MJF may be playing everybody involved, but the rumor is that he is leaning towards signing with WWE when his contract expires in 2024. The thought is he and Tony Khan are not as close as they once were, and WWE, through back channels, has stated more or less that they would sign him for big coin. So it'll be interesting to see what takes place. If you remember, a couple weeks ago, MJF and Tony Khan got into a little bit of a heated backstage situation, bit of a backstage discussion that really got elevated, as well as this week, MJF taking shots at Tony Khan. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as this unfolds. And finally, some sad news. Former $1 Million Man, valet, and NWO member Virgil has been reported to have stage 2 colon cancer. So prayers and well wishes and thoughts for Virgil. He might be at Comic-Con as well, because he's always at all the Comic-Cons and all the wrestling conventions. But that's going to do it for this week's wrestling news and notes.
Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSCROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Thanks, everybody, for your strong engagement in the world of wrestling. You're getting it. You're seeing the ties in that we make with wrestling GIFs all over our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. Thanks as we continue to elevate and grow and make noise in the world of professional wrestling. We hope that some of these interviews can take place moving forward because they're fun. We get a little bit of background and things like that. Or if you're listening today, it's Sunday, get out there. Maybe if you've had opportunity on Saturday to meet MJF, who was in town for one day only, to entertain those that wanted to get a photo with him. Those generally can be fun, but basically it's, hey, you want to hang out with me? Pay $50 and you get a photo. So it's interesting, but right now, maybe not for me, for crowds. Just health and safety matters as always in the forefront. Those places can get crowded real fast. Cuz, great stuff as always. I look forward to next week as we kick off another week of professional wrestling with Raw on Monday. And now we're moving forward to great content in AEW, WWE, and Impact Wrestling. Thanks, cuz. Let's talk next week on the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast.